Hello and welcome to Friday Finds with Rob Meyer-Kukan.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Friday Finds. I thank you for joining me and for checking in today to talk to my talk with Dr. Terry Zachary, who is the inventor and creator of the Handmaster Plus. He's going to give you all sorts of really wonderful information, and he is a complete and total font of information for musicians, athletes, everyday activities that we do and that can be affected by and helped by this wonderful product that he's going to share with us. So welcome, Dr. Zachary, to the show. I appreciate you being here and taking the time to visit with us today.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, Rob. It's a great platform you provide. Really impressive.
Well, thank you very much. So we're going to just jump right into our talk back and forth, our interview. And the first question is just tell us a little bit about yourself, about what you do, and just give us a basic introduction.
Rob, when I talk about this product particularly, it's very exciting to me because a lot of my passions come into one. My background is I'm a sports chiropractor. I had a practice that was pretty much half sports, half family practice. It started to turn into a lot of music, which I know you have a big background in and an expertise in. And it started because of this product. We started to look at repetitive grip and why we see so many injuries. And it also is an area that intrigued me a lot because I really believe a lot in the wisdom of the body. And I started to see that all these same patterns of injuries would come up with these repetitive grippers, these sports, especially in sports. My background is a lot in golf. Golf's a big thing for me, but also being a Canadian, of course, hockey has to come into the play. But then you see everything, baseball, football, basketball, the way we just train in general, because all those sports are going to train all the upper body muscles, even not just hand muscles, but shoulder muscles. But to train shoulder muscles and biceps and triceps, we usually have to grip something. So grip comes into the play really pervasively everywhere. So when I'd see these athletes, started to recognize I would see the same patterns. The tennis elbow, the golfer's elbow, lateral epicondylitis, and medial epicondylitis, in terms that you and probably most of your viewers would understand now, but also the carpal tunnel syndromes, the de Quervain's tendinocinitis in the thumb area. Some of the chronic thumb and finger overuse injuries. So I would start to see, I'm seeing in repetitive grip, I'm seeing hand, wrist, fingers, which I could understand, but also a lot of elbow, forearm stuff, which you have to review your anatomy a little bit to see that the muscles, which are basically 18 muscles that run, I'm going to say in general terms, basically 18 muscles run the way your hands move. And basically 9 of them are on the front of your hand and basically 9 of them are on the back of your hand, basically. Including sides.
Right.
So I started to look at this and you start to realize, if we get an imbalance in our hand muscles, you're going to see that throughout hand, wrist, forearm, carpal tunnel, fingers, thumbs, and elbow. And as we started to really look at it, I just started to see that why are we, as I was trained as a golfer growing up, people would say, grab a racquetball, a tennis ball, a spring-loaded, coiled unit and just start gripping it, and that'll make your hand strong. And now I know that's about the same as telling some young kid to go out in there and just strengthen your chest and strengthen your biceps and forget about your triceps and forget about your back and see what happens. Well, what happens is you create imbalance. So I'll run on about this because I'm passionate about this, but fast forward, and as I started to work in practice, I started to give at least 5 exercises out. And then, in practice, when you give 5 or 6 exercises out to a patient, you can understand them, but they probably don't, and they probably won't remember them. And when you ask, how's your exercises coming? They're generally going to say, I forgot, or they just won't follow. That's when I realized I have to create something that, to be fair to the patient, that's not even to be abusive to my patients. It's to be fair to the patients. They have a life too. They can't just think about hand muscles all day or the muscles of the body. My athletes had a lot of areas to train as well. So we had to start to design something simple. And that was kind of the start of creating Handmaster Plus, and just get thinking about, I can just have them go through their normal range of motion and build something that just allows them to do it naturally and still respects the body's normal motion, but it allows the patient then to be very convenient with how they train it. So now with Handmaster Plus, as we designed it, a person should be done their complete hand exercise, full range of motion in a minute. And so no more, 5, 6, 10 minutes, stuff laying all over the place and forgetting it. Now it's easy and convenient.
Wonderful. Yeah, and what I really like about it is it's something you can just use, and you can do it while you're sitting around watching TV. You can do it while you're in your regular stretching routine. You can do it everywhere. It's wonderful. So why don't you show us the product and tell us, how to use it, and maybe go a little bit more into how it helps to build the balance of both.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to show you the one that I had out for our interview today. If you can see it, it's a blue ball with a yellow cord, so that's a soft one. Originally, when we designed the product, Rob, we just made the red one with the black cords is generally, that's our medium product. That's what most people use, most athletes, for wellness and stuff. I'm going to give myself a little break in the morning, use the soft one. They're super easy, but I'll show you. So I'll slip it on. It goes in the thumb and the fingers. And basically, when you get into the anatomy of it, instead of getting into too many detailed muscle terms, I'll just talk about the main muscles that we look at and how the hand operates. If we focus on all the flexor muscles, so I do like people doing flexion. Sometimes people ask me about it. Do you even want people to do flexion? I do, because we want full range of motion exercise. That's a really big deal for any joint. You want to provide proper resistance, not overdoing it, not underdoing it, through as full a range of motion as that patient is capable of doing. So that's why I do like flexion. And so when we close the ball, we can address the flexor and the adductor, the closing muscles of the hands. Okay, so I do that. I don't have to tell people. They don't even have to know that. They just close, and then they can open and spread. So if you can see, when I open and spread, now I'm going to strengthen all those. Now I'll get into the different general groups. Is the extensor, and more important, as far as I'm concerned, or as important, is the abductor, the spreading muscles. Okay, so I squeeze to strengthen the 9 muscles that close and tighten the hand. So those are the flexor and the adductor muscles. And when I open and spread, I'm strengthening the 9 muscles on the back, the extensor and spreading abductor muscles. Okay, so I know seems wordy, but what it looks like is just this person, like you say, it's very easy to do, whether you're an athlete or a musician or workplace, no matter where you repetitively grip. I just go close, open, spread, close, open, spread. I strengthen the 9 muscles that close the hand. Remember, those muscles are all located in the front of the thumb, hand, wrist, carpal tunnel it affects, forearm, and elbow. So I squeeze this, I close to strengthen the 9 muscles that close the hand, and I open to strengthen the 9 muscles that open the hand. But it's one continuous exercise. We get away from this idea where I take something and squeeze it, which is what I grew up with. And I started to have elbow problems because, I'll get into one more thing in a second here, how the elbow gets in. But if we just repetitively grip, we're never going to you're never going to get proper lymph drainage. As we know, that's another thing that I can say really quickly is lymph drainage is controlled mostly by muscle contraction anywhere in your body. So we know that if we want to keep our body clear of toxins, our body maintaining its immune system all over, we have to contract the muscles all over our body. That's what moves the lymph, and which helps us maintain our health. And that's what's really big about this is I contract all 18 muscles of my hand, which are hand, wrist, forearm, elbow muscles. And I'm going to make sure that I'm always getting blood flow and lymph drainage away from the area. So blood flow to and lymph drainage away. So that's about the simplicity. I squeeze to get all the closing muscles. I open and spread to get all 9 opening muscles. I don't miss a thing. It's just as easy to do as squeeze something. You just squeeze, open, spread. So I haven't taken any convenience away, but now I've strengthened all 18 muscles of the hand, wrist, forearm, and elbow that control the hand in one continuous exercise. So now I'm going to have, now I'll take this off for a second, Rob.
So can you tell us,
Yep.
Just the real benefit is from the tension that is created, the resistance of coming out,
Yes.
and then again, sort of the resistance of pulling or pushing into the
Um,
soft foam.
yeah, absolutely. As far as when you're talking about just kind of muscle physiology wise,
Right.
you're going to, and it's not a negative, a lot of people say is it a negative contraction? No, it's a contraction. So when I strengthen here, now in the old days, in the old days when you squeeze, I won't get too much into it. If you squeeze a ball, like the old days, people would say, well, you're still strengthening the extensor muscles. That is true, because when you squeeze something, the kinetic chain of grip, the extensor muscles squeeze to support grip. So you are getting the extensor muscles. So people will say, I've still got pretty good forearm muscles from just squeezing something, which is kind of what I used to think. You're doing it, but you're doing it in a small range of motion. So when you do such a small range of motion, that muscle becomes static. So you need to take those muscles as well through their contraction. So we're used to doing flexor muscles contracted, but now we contract all 9 muscles that open the hand. It's not a negative contraction, it's the contraction. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It does.
People used to say you're getting the negative contraction. No, that's not a negative contraction. When you open against the cords, that's the contraction, the negative contraction. So you're addressing the actual muscle groups. When I close, it's the ball that provides the resistance to contraction. When I open and spread, the cords now provide the direct resistance to the contraction. So it's not a negative. You still get the negatives when you open, but that is the direct contraction. You're addressing all those 9 open and spreading muscles directly.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Excellent.
Yeah, it's a good thing to clarify, because it's not you are treating those 9 opening and spreading muscles, which are very vital. You're treating them specifically. It's not a negative contraction of the flexion muscles.
Okay. Cool. Excellent.
And one other thing, Rob, and sorry, I'll tell you, the other thing that we've really learned about since doing this, we do a lot of EMG muscles on grip, or tests on grip. So the one thing we know is that anytime we grip something, I know that you are, I won't talk music expertise, but I could talk music muscles with you. But I'm really fascinated by music. The sports got us more as we started working with repetitive gripping. We started getting a bunch of musicians come in. Same exact thing that we look at, they'd come in, it was carpal tunnel, thumb, wrist, and elbow problems. The same thing, the same repetitive grip initial problems. And when we started to work with them, we started to really see that anytime I grip something, there's a kinetic chain to grip. And what I mean by that, just like anything, if I throw a baseball, there's a whole kinetic chain that's been studied over and over and over, and people can explain that. But the kinetic chain of grip means that the extensor muscles that we're talking about on the back of your fingers, thumb, hand, wrist, forearm, and elbow, those extensor muscles of the fingers, the finger extensor muscles contract to support a guitar, a piano, all that. They're contracting the whole time while the flexor muscles do their thing. So our eye sees the flexor muscles and say, this is a flexion activity. And most people say that makes sense because our eye sees it. But what's actually happening is your extensor muscles are firing in support. So when a musician fatigues, which you probably experienced that over a while, musician fatigues, we've dealt with that a lot, or they cramp.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you, that will have a lot. You'd think, well, my finger muscles or my flexion muscles, whatever I'm doing, are getting tired. I will guarantee you it has more to do with these extension muscles, because the flexor muscles, historically, as they've trained and practiced, have been really well exercised through a full range of motion. These muscles that are equally important in the grip have been contracting historically in one position. And that's why if we start to train them this way, we start to see musicians, dental hygienists, I talk a lot, stuff like that. We start to see those people fatiguing less because now they're respecting the inherent kinetic chain mechanics of their pursuit. So does that make sense? I know it sounds like a lot, but if we don't train the muscles that support the flexion muscles in, say, piano. I know you've got some expertise in piano. If we don't, and it always looked to me like the flexor muscles were pretty easy in piano. They just drop with gravity. But these muscles, Rob, are contracting the whole time. Your extensor muscles are contracting to not only support the flexion action, but they're contracting against gravity. So that's what we find is we have to really respect the mechanics of the grip kinetic chain. And that's one thing that for some reason nobody even pays attention to. And
Right.
you still see a lot of people just, well, I'm going to grip something because that's what I see. I see the fingers grip in my sport or music or workplace. So let's just take something and grip it more. And I tell people that's like telling somebody with bad posture to slouch more. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Okay. So we have to look at what the balance of the area is. And hand, wrist, forearm, and elbow, you have to balance the front with the back.
Yeah.
For those reasons.
So what you're telling us is when we take our hands and turn them over this way, like when we play the piano, when
Yes.
we type on a computer, our extensors are the muscles that keep our hands from essentially just falling over.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing about, your mind can go to even think of scenarios, because we see a lot of scenarios. Anytime grip is difficult enough, it's now become easy. We're giving it a really, if you saw the demonstration I did with the Handmaster Plus, if you're not willing to do that long of muscle exercise, that's about as easy as we can make it. And it's so complete.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about it is when we look at anything where somebody's hand goes palm down in their exercise, and I talk about piano with that a lot, because piano always confused me why people are getting injuries. It seemed pretty easy to me. And I respect piano, but
Yeah.
I didn't understand mechanically. Once that palm goes down, these extensor muscles have two jobs. They all what looks like zero jobs to people to having two big jobs. They support the finger flexors, like you say. And if your finger extensor muscles weren't contracting, the fingers would just go like this. Can you see that? Yeah. So they just go like that. So your finger muscles in the kinetic chain, number one, are contracting to support whatever you're doing with the flexor muscles. But number two, they're holding the fingers against gravity as well. So that's why when you talk about computers always confuse me too. Well, what do you do? You're just typing. It doesn't seem that hard to me. But when you see what happens with the muscle firing, when you can get it on a computer, anytime I turn palm down, those muscle signals go way up. And that makes sense to me now, because they're having to not only participate in the action, but they also are holding the muscles up against gravity, or
Right.
the fingers up against gravity.
Right.
And we saw it a lot in piano. We see it a lot when we test computers, and we see it a lot when we test the dental profession or surgeons. Once they turn palm down, the whole situation escalates.
And can you talk a little bit about, just how does the elbow get involved there? Why would my elbow hurt?
Okay, and there's an excellent question. So how I say it is whatever created this whole world of ours, I'm good with God, I'm good with source, I'm good with whatever somebody wants to say. There's wisdom to it. So we have to look at all the muscles. If they're there for a reason. The muscles at your lateral, so I'll see if I can put this. So the muscles that originate at your lateral epicondyle are either wrist extensors or they're finger extensors. 3 of them are wrist extensors, 2 of them are finger extensors. And I think we have a pretty good grasp of the wrist extensors in healthcare. You'd probably agree. A lot of people will say, hey, we've got lateral epicondylitis. Let's do our therapy on it, and let's do something to strengthen the wrist extensors, which I completely, of course, agree with.
Right.
But what people miss, and I think I don't want to overblow the situation, what the whole world misses is that there's finger extensors as well at this lateral epicondyle. So those are the finger extensors we already talked about. When I grip something, those finger extensors that attach at that common tendon at the lateral epicondyle, those finger extensors are also contracting as part of the kinetic chain. And again, more so if you're palm down in your pursuit. Okay. So when that happens over time, people say, well, if they're contracting, shouldn't they be healthy? They're not contracting through their full range of motion. They're contracting in generally a small range of motion, and they're pretty static muscles. I do this all the time. My flexor muscles are contracting through a full range of motion, yes, but my finger extensor muscles are contracting statically in support that whole time.
Yeah.
So what I equate that to, Rob, when I talk to people, it's like somebody saying, holding a brick like this. Okay, I'm going to hold a brick like this for 5 days. That's my bicep exercise. Well, you'd look at them like they're crazy. You'd say, well, that's not a bicep exercise. You're not taking it through. You're not going through its full range of motion. No, this is my bicep exercise. Well, you'd know that if that was your bicep exercise, the minute you stopped exercising and you needed to go throw a ball or, do something outside that range of motion, we know it's easy to injure a static muscle. Okay. Well, that's exactly what we've done over all this time with these finger extensor muscles that attach onto the elbow. We have never trained them to do anything except for this. They're static. So we build a static muscle, and I'm a chiropractor by trade, so we would adjust that, but we would do soft tissue work with it to break down the adhesion. But we have to remember what caused it. And what caused this, we cannot continue to build static muscles, static finger extensor muscles, and expect to not have problems at that lateral epicondyle.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. So this really speaks to something that I'm really passionate about, and you are passionate about it obviously as well, is that, why would my elbow hurt if I'm not doing something that specifically has to do with elbow flexion?
Exactly. Yep.
It's that anatomical understanding of where those muscles attach. And since they attach both here and here, respectively, with your extensors and flexors, you could have pain in your elbow, even if you're not doing something that's intensive on that joint.
It's exactly true. And Rob, you also make a good point, is when I originally started to look at this area, I remember when I played on the college golf team, and I was going on a trip, and my x-ray prof said, well, you're going to miss this. You're going to miss this, missed a couple of days in class. I want you to write a report about lateral epicondylitis versus medial epicondylitis. And I kind of regurgitated the regular stuff about inflammation and all this stuff. And it's true, that's what's happening. But I got thinking to myself about I talked about all the muscles that attach to the lateral side, all the muscles attached to the medial side. In medial epicondylitis, these become inflamed. In lateral epicondylitis, these outside ones become inflamed. But the more I thought about it intuitively, I was thinking back then, I think it's the same cause. Okay, I think it's the muscles that on the flexor side are completely shortened, they're overbuilt, and the muscles on the opposite side are barely doing anything. They contract statically. So when somebody asks me about medial epicondylitis versus lateral epicondylitis, I say, obviously I talk a lot about have the professions check the area. You're going to need to do some rehabbing, some breaking down of the muscle tissues. I know you do that, and that's absolutely vital when it's come to that point. But look at how it came to that point. And it's just like, the best way I can say it, it's just like bad posture. If we do things all day this way, never do things back, we're going to have to deal with that imbalance at some point in our lives. And I can tell you that the hand, wrist, forearm, and elbow is just like, it's very similar to bad posture. Obviously, there's no spinal cord going through your arm, but the mechanics are very simple. I do stuff all day like this. I grab my coffee cup, I grab my, I'm doing my stuff. You're working on patients. It's always gripping all day. At some point, you have to understand that these muscles are going to get shortened compared to these, or over strengthened compared to these muscles. Okay. And you have to deal with that imbalance. And that's what, ergonomic exercises are all about. And we have to look at the mechanics. And like you said, I think understanding the mechanics is the first thing, because once to lay people, for yourself and myself, it might be a little bit easier to look into it. Right. But for a lay person to understand about all these muscles, once they do, or they get a very general understanding, they will understand they have to open and spread. You have to get muscle balance front and back. And then the other thing that does is it changes what you can do as a musician. You're able to do, once you understand the mechanics, and you're able to strengthen the supportive muscles, well, you become a better guitar player, a faster guitar player, a better, less fatigue. Piano, more stretch. We can show how people get more stretch with their fingers once these muscles up here are strengthened. And it seems confusing, but to yourself and myself, it would make perfect sense.
Right.
So once you get all the mechanics of the area proper, your performance is maximized, and your chance of injury goes way down because you're creating strength and balance and blood flow, and that's all very important.
Excellent. So can you tell those who are watching how they can purchase this awesome product?
Yeah, we have on our website is probably the best way, especially in North America. Just the shipping is the scale is very convenient, and it's very affordable. So our website is handmasterplus.com. It's easy to order on there. We're also we're in a few places that are big box, a little bit more. We're in I believe it's the MEI stores through a partner of ours. We are getting closer to the drugstores. We're actually in pretty far along talks. I'm not the business guy, so I'll mumble through this. I have a partner that takes care of this. He always says he cares that it sells. I say, I just care that it works and that people. So the first part is great, but the more people are getting an education, we're getting into different places. So look for us we're talking with some bigger drugstores in America.
Awesome.
That will come in time. But for now, the website is the easiest, and it's easy to order from the website.
Excellent. And if people want to reach you, if they've got questions or how can they stay in contact with you?
Yes, real easy. Our email address is info@doczac.com. So our company is called DocZac. It's DOCZAC. I'm a Canadian, so I say Z. DOCZAC.com. So info@doczac.com. Then I will get that message, and I respond to everything. When people talk, especially if it's a mechanical question, I love talking about this because we affect one person like yourself. Now you can affect so many people. And the one thing I'll say about this too, Rob, is that I like this a lot because it's really right in my passion zones. I love sports. I love seeing people do really, really well. And I love the fitness health side of things. So, when I talk about this, I can go on and on. A person like yourself gets interested in it. I could talk to you all day about it.
Excellent. I like to end our videos by asking you to share with us some words of wisdom, the best piece of advice you were ever given. And it can be funny or serious. It can have something to do with what we've talked about, or it can be completely off the wall. So what are some words of wisdom that are the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Rob, when you told me you were going to ask me this, I thought I think it's the best question you can ask anybody. I really personally do. So mine will sound serious, but I think it gives you that position in your life where then you can, anyways, I'll tell you what I was told one time, and it probably I know it came in chiropractic school. And I don't care what you call a profession, I don't care what the title is, we all want to help each other. We want to help each other live a better life, perform well, do our service well. And that's what I'm really, really into. And I remember going to one of the first things I heard was always consider the body intelligent. And I know it seems like a kind of a strange thing, but I came from a different background where you have a symptom, you just bang, you hit the symptom, and bang, you hit the symptom, and bang, you hit the symptom, and the body considered very intelligent at all. It was like, we're intelligent to do something to the body. But where that brought me was that every time I look at anything that happens with a symptom in the body, from there on in, I would always ask myself, what is the body doing? Even in my own life, if I have sometimes something's going on, I really try to experience that and say, what is my body telling me? I don't say what's wrong with my body. I say, what is my body trying to tell me? That leads to things like thinking outside. That's exactly what led to Handmaster and some of the other stuff that we're working on. So that advice, I think, sounds serious, but it gives me the place it gives you the whole, it gives you a whole playing field to just dabble in. And so, and when if somebody has the flu, I don't go, well, something crawled into them and boom, hit them with the flu. I say, what is happening? What is your body trying to do? And I think when we think that way, we have so much more respect for this experience of life, and it makes life fun in my mind. So when you ask me that question, that's what I thought of. It sounds like a serious question, but it's what allows people to have fun, if you ask me. Once they realize, wow, I mean, I'm a miracle walking around and my body knows what it's doing and I just got to listen to it. Yes. And then life becomes, I think, very fun and very interesting then.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate the time that you took with me this morning.
My pleasure.
And I, on behalf of everyone who will benefit from watching this video on the replay, I thank you for your contributions and for the future benefits that people will receive. Hopefully they'll take advantage of this, and if needed, if necessary, contact you at the ways that you said. I will leave all of the information about how to reach Dr. Zachary, how to purchase his product in the comments below, so everyone will have that easily, quickly accessible and available to them. And so just one more time, thank you very much, Dr. Zachary, and have a great day, everyone.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Rob.
Join me next week as I interview Kurt Erickson, the creator of Sarah and the Magic Piano.